What is up, Call of Duty fans? Welcome back. We've got day 3 of week number 4, our final week until Fort Worth, and likely all of the roster mania that will be happening. Oh, you know, in tomorrow, as we get to the beginning of March, we'll start seeing a lot of roster moves, which is where my coverage will start being kind of geared towards as we kind of have this dead time before Fort Worth starts up. I'll also be doing a couple more Eyes On series as well. I do have to apologize again. My live clips are just not working for some reason with Twitch. I don't know if it's a Twitch problem or if it's a me problem. It's probably a me problem, but there's not gonna be any over footage as far as today goes, and today was a very interesting day. I do want to remind you guys of what the standings looked like after our 2 days, and again, you can see the Heretics, after their 3-1 victory versus Splyce, were looking untouchable, which is something that you don't typically associate. You wouldn't have associated this at the very beginning of the season. You'd say Heretics, okay, yeah, they'll be in the middle of the pack, maybe a little bit better than average, but to be undefeated and possibly the best team in Division B after 2 days and a week of what's been going on with regular season gameplay, that would have surprised, I think, just about anybody, and they probably would have said you were crazy if you were to say that. But as we dig into today, we had what I thought was going to be a very straightforward day. A lot of mismatches in the records as you take a look at some of the teams that are popping up on your screen. Enigma 6 and Accelerate, that was probably the only real close in record game that we had. Splyce and Denial was obviously going to be lopsided, the 5-1 versus the 0-5 of Denial. Then we had 100 Thieves and Heretics, 100 Thieves who have looked better this week, but we didn't think would be anywhere near the level of Heretics. We said maybe it would go 5 games if 100 Thieves showed up, but I didn't think they would be able to touch the Heretics. And then eUnited and Team Envy, again, Team Envy struggling as of lately. Again, with eUnited playing as strongly as they had the day before versus Denial, and then obviously the week before, it was looking like it was going to be a pretty easy game there as well. That would not be at all the case whatsoever. We'll start the day with Enigma 6 and Accelerate. This was, I would say, the most straightforward game. Accelerate has just been god-awful when it comes to the respawn mode. Specifically hardpoint, they're the worst hardpoint team in the league. Nobody's above a 1-point KD with the exception of Robbie B, who has been credited another name for the B in his name. We'll kind of stay away from that. It's not our place to comment on it. But regardless, Accelerate have looked even worse with Robbie B in the lineup when it comes to hardpoint. They've done well in search still, and that would be essentially the case here. Enigma 6 would absolutely smoke Accelerate in all of the respawns, and they would have a close search and destroy. Again, Enigma 6 has not been great in the search. That would be their one weakness here as they win this set 3-1. And again, Accelerate just look like they're in shambles at the moment. Profizi and BZ, I would say, are probably the 2 players that have really stood out as far as being, okay, these guys, they can hang at this level. They definitely deserve to still be here. But M. Ruiz, Believe, Robbie B. Robbie B's been hit or miss. But Believe and M. Ruiz have not really been playing all that well lately. So definitely keep your eye on this team to make some changes. If it's not 1, maybe 2, possibly even 3 players, since Fastball is likely gone from here on out with his attitude and what he's been saying against his teammates publicly on Twitter and on the Twitch chat. And I just don't see him sticking around this organization for long. We'll skip ahead. Denial and Splyce. And I just, once again, I made a Reddit post about this, but if you missed it, Chance was on the desk today right when this game was getting set up. He also had the call for this game. But I just have to give praises to, because he came out on the desk and said that this Denial team, they're not as bad as everyone's saying that they are. That's just flat out. They're not as bad as what everyone's been saying. And even amongst adversity with pretty much all the other 3 people on the desk kind of poking holes at him or poking at him saying, well, we've been saying this and they haven't looked good at all and this team is terrible. Chance was sitting there and holding his ground, and I have to give massive shout outs to Chance for coming back through and bringing some rationale to the discussion, not just letting it be a one-sided shitfest, which is what it essentially has been when it comes to the desk talking about Denial. I would say, again, like we mentioned yesterday in our video, completely unwarranted, completely unmerited. 4 of these players are brand new to the CWL. This is the hardest the CWL has ever been, thanks to the format of the PLQ. All 16 teams are the best 16 teams there in the game. You can't deny that. You absolutely cannot deny that, especially with a team like Denial that beat FaZe Clan Black, beat the Pittsburgh Knights. I mean, they did everything they had to do. They're definitively a top 16 team in the game. So I was very upset, obviously, yesterday when we talked about this. I was really happy to see Chance come out and talk with a little bit more fire about this team and give them the resiliency that they need and should be affiliated with, and not just be smoked on, even though they've only been in the league for 2 weeks, scrimming up against absolutely nobody because nobody will play them and nobody in Europe is really worth playing. Denial, they would not look so great at the start of this one, though. Everyone was kind of saying that, you know, if you're Denial, you're probably not going to win this set. You just need to come out and just get better. Just try to find a way to get some good practice through and through. You know, play some maps that you might not be so great at, was what Chance was saying, so you can get some work on those maps. And that would actually turn out to be a reverse sweep after Denial smoked Splyce on the control. I mean, destroyed them. Absolutely dismantled Splyce on the control. They would hit back even harder on the hard point, a 250 to 147. They 103'd the differential between Splyce. And then they would win the last search and destroy 6-3. The last 3 games were convincing. Like, it wasn't just Denial beating Splyce. The last 3 games were Denial stomping and smashing through Splyce. So, you know what? I mean, you can't say this team needs to make any changes at this point in time. They've got Accelerate tomorrow. We'll talk about that matchup. But after beating Splyce, a team that has champions and long-standing veterans on it, don't sleep on Denial, family. I was telling you. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but you cannot sleep on this team. They can play well. They are not a bad team by any stretch, and they're no longer the worst team in the league, I think you can definitively say. We'll skip ahead. 100 Thieves and Heretics. Again, this one going into it, we thought Heretics would probably win this one 3-1 or 3-2, depending on the map choices. 100 Thieves look like a complete team all of a sudden. Kenny and Enable played better today, and when that happens and Priesta and Slasher and Octane are playing at their usual heightened level, there's nobody who can get in their way. This was a 3-0, but this was a very close game. I might actually go back through and do part of my Eyes On series on this set, because it was a very close set. 250 to 226 in the first hard point, a 6-4 on the search and destroy, very close, and then a very, very back and forth control. It went 3-2. It came with a lot of drama, a lot of hype. It was a very fun set to watch. End of the day, though, it just came down to the Priest as a monster. I mean, he's just incredible. And Metals and Methods didn't play nearly as well as they did yesterday against Splyce. They played well, but they didn't play nearly as well as they did against Splyce. 100 Thieves was functioning on every single level. Kenny was even picking up ICRs, Maddoxes, and Sogs, and he was doing well with all of them. He was actually using an ICR for a pretty significant amount of time, so you know, who knows what's going on with that? Maybe he's starting to rein in his positioning a little bit more, and this 100 Thieves team is absolutely for real. I still need to see some more convincing performances before I can put them, I would say, in the top, probably the top 8 still. Maybe the top 8. I don't know. I haven't even looked at the standings yet. I couldn't tell you any hints at what my power rankings are going to look like after this week. But there still needs to be a little bit more to be considered for this team. They're not out of the woods yet. I still need to see them finish off this week convincingly before I can really full sell on 100 Thieves being that high stock team that you thought they would be at the beginning of the year. But they would take Heretics down 3-0. And then you get over to Team Envy and eUnited. And at the end of the day, all my bets, all my predictions were shot. And after the Denial game, ruining my entire day of betting on Splyce, I actually picked bets on the underdogs of 100 Thieves and Envy to win their sets. And Envy would show up today. Apathy, we kind of rang his bell last night talking about how he just wasn't playing all that well, and he was the guy that's probably going to need to go. He showed up today. He had a number of doubles, even a couple triples in the mix. eUnited, they didn't play super poorly, but they weren't nearly at the same level that Envy came out of the gates with. The 250 to 200 on the hard point, a 6-3 on the search, and then it finishes off with a very back and forth. But again, Team Envy outlasting a 3-2 control. And Team Envy find themselves a much-needed win, which puts this division all over the place. A lot of 4-2s, 5-1s all over the place right now. So the top of this division is still up for grabs as we take a look at what Thursday will provide for us. We'll start the day off, Denial and Accelerate. And after the performance with Denial taking on Splyce, you have to feel pretty good about Denial. I'm interested to see what the betting lines are going to be for this team, because in the books, they're both teams are 1-5. Accelerate have the 8-17 versus the 7-17 of Denial. But you take a look just across the board and how this matchup should favor Denial. They're better at hardpoint, although marginally so. They've had a couple map blowouts, but generally speaking, Denial has been the better hardpoint team. The search, obviously, Accelerate, that's been their only real strength, but Denial hasn't been terrible there either. If you look back and forth between the averages of both teams as far as what they give and what they actually take as far as rounds go. And then the control, again, both teams sitting at 2-4, so this could be a very close close set. I said this one a couple days ago that I have Denial beating Accelerate even before they beat Splyce. I'm still holding strong with that. I've got Denial beating Accelerate at a 3-1 scoreline, which will put a lot of great conversation for Denial going into Fort Worth. My biggest thing is I hope this team stays in the States. I hope Denial can put them up and do a good boot camp, because if they can get some solid practice in before Fort Worth, this Denial team could absolutely turn some heads. So I'm hoping that they get a chance to stay in the States. We'll take a look at our second matchup, though. Team Envy and Heretics. And after Envy were able to take that convincing win versus eUnited, and Heretics had that close set but lost still at an 0-3 scoreline to 100 Thieves. This set actually could go either way, and I have a hard time predicting this, and I still have no idea which way I'm going to predict it, to be completely candid with you guys. Fact of the matter is, 5-1 is Heretics, 2-4 is Envy, but you look across the board at the averages and the map counts, and it's essentially even. The differential is that in favor of Envy for the hard point. It's a 20, nearly 5-point differential. In the pro side for Envy in the hard point, where it's a -8 for Heretics. You just look at the points given up, and there's a big difference there, about a 30-point differential between what points are given up. And that's my biggest thing as I look. I see them kind of splitting the hard points, I think. I think this game goes 5. You look then at the Search and Destroy. 4 and 5 takes on 5 and 3 in the records. And again, you look at the differentials between them as far as rounds given up and rounds taken. It's very close as far as what they get, but a little bit more different as far as what they give up. Heretics, you know, they've looked a little bit wishy-washy on their Search and Destroy. The 2-6 loss to Splyce, and then the 4-6 loss to 100 Thieves this week. And one of those was the 2-6 loss was actually on Hacienda, not that they had looked good on. So you wonder if Envy's paying attention to the vetoes. You keep frequency out of the discussion because that's where Heretics have been strong with. You wonder if Heretics can actually win a Search and Destroy. We haven't seen them on Payload yet or Gridlock. And then for Envy, they've been okay at frequency, but they've been better just about everywhere else. So I've actually got the Search and Destroy kind of also favoring that of Envy. And as I take a look at the control as well, again, you take a look at where the stat lines sit at right now. Both teams sitting at 3-3 and 4-2. Very, very close differentials between them. This one goes either way. I'm actually probably going to take Team Envy in my predictions, just to try to be a little bit different. But I think this game goes 5. I think this is going to be a really strong set. If Envy can come out and play the way they did yesterday, or they did in day 3 versus how they can play on day 4, I think they can absolutely take Heretics down. They're obviously showing some weaknesses, are the Spaniards, so it's definitely a possibility. But this game goes 5. Flip a coin, whoever you like, root for them, and hope that they pay off your day at the end of the day, because this is going to be a good set. Moving forward, 100 Thieves and Enigma 6. And the biggest thing, again, Enigma 6 needs to clean up their Search and Destroy. Otherwise, this set I don't think they have a shot at. If they lose both searches to 100 Thieves, obviously you lose the game at that point. But if 100 Thieves comes out on fire again, if they can win the first hard point, win the first search, I've got 100 Thieves taking this one at a 3-1 or a 3-2. But you take a look at some of the differentials between the two teams, and it's a relatively even stat line again. Division B is real. It's a very difficult division from top to bottom. I wasn't joking when I said that weeks ago when they announced that these divisions were coming out. Division B is by far a harder division, and guessing and predicting these games is going to be difficult. But if I had to make a guess, based on how 100 Thieves has played in this last week, specifically how consistently they've looked, I'm going to give this one to 100 Thieves, I think, at a 3-2 scoreline. Again, the search has just been one of the biggest factors for me when it comes to this team and what they're able to do, especially for Enigma 6, who've looked weak there. Finishing off the entirety of our first regular season kind of stage here, eUnited and Splyce, and copy-paste the conversation we've had. All of these games are going to be insane. I think all of these games are going to be really, really close games. This one as well. The stat lines nearly copy-pasted between the two of them all the way across the board. It's kind of a pick your poison type of thing. You would have to think that there's no way that Splyce loses 3 games in a row. But eUnited, I don't see them being okay with how they worked, how they looked today versus Envy, and I see them coming back and hitting a little bit harder. It's just going to come down to what maps get played. Honestly, I really believe that it's going to come down to whatever maps get picked. So for me, I've got eUnited taking this one personally. They looked a little bit more well-rounded. Splyce, obviously, is a team that we considered at one point in time to be the best team potentially in Division B, but everything's up in the air. I think this game goes 5 as well. It's hard to pick between these. Honestly, it's really difficult to pick between these. So those are your matchups. This is going to be a really fun day to watch. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'll be doing one last recap with the divisional standings at the very end of week 4, and then I'll be doing, again, like a power rankings video. I'm not sure if I'll do it just before Fort Worth or if I'll do it at the end of this week. or if we'll do maybe both. Maybe we'll do both, depending on if we get roster changes and stuff. We can kind of reevaluate our power rankings based on whoever gets picked up or dropped. So maybe we'll do that. That sounds like a good idea. And then of course we'll be doing an Eyes On series. I still think I want to do just one map because I think that's the best way of doing it. But we'll see. Maybe a full set could be fun from one team's perspective. Again, let me know what you think about that in the comments below. Would you rather see one map from both teams' perspectives throughout the entirety of it as far as analysis goes, or would you rather see one team's perspective throughout the entirety of a set, showcasing mostly the good moments, not necessarily the bad, depending on the maps that we, or the teams that we pick. So that's been that. It's been a pleasure having you guys. I hope you guys again enjoy the last day of week 4. Until next time, hope you keep holding it down. Later, bye-bye.